then he's got a problem because then you're going to actually try.
I'm always trying.
And when you did the 755, it was actually really easy. From what I remember.
Yeah.
Looked like you could clean and jerk it.
Yeah, that was just being in the zone. That was a crazy pull. I didn't expect
You squatted pretty good in that meet too, right? Didn't you squat like
629. 629.
Yeah.
And it was also a pretty easy squat. Like
Yeah.
everything in that meet other than the bench press was pretty easy.
Did you just miss your, was it your third attempt?
It was my third attempt bench, yeah. It was the third attempt was for like 404, 403 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it came up, hold, came back down. Yeah.
That's one of those things like, like under a 400-pound bench doesn't sound great when you're 250 plus, right?
It does not.
But once you're over 400, then you're like kind of off the hook. Like it's definitely still not your best lift, but over 400, you're like, hey, that guy's pushing 4 plates. Have you benched 4 plates before in the gym?
With a slingshot on.
Oh, you had to cheat.
I had to cheat. And there's no pride in that, but yeah. Yeah.
What'd you think of the ST Classic?
Shoot, that meet was nice. It was really well run. A lot of people, a lot of spectators. The energy was good with every single lifter. And it was cool being able to like see people use the slingshot on their attempts.
Yeah.
You know?
I know a lot of people just made him feel more comfortable. Like one of my good friends, Jason Kalipa, he was competing in the meet, and he was super nervous about competing. And I was like, "Oh man, you're gonna wear a slingshot. Like you'll be fine." And he was like, "Oh really?" He's like, "I get to wear a slingshot," and so he just felt that much more comfortable, just because it gives you a little protection, and plus, who doesn't want to put on a little bit more weight?
Yeah, and then Jeremy Avila, yeah, seeing him that deadlift.
Shit.
Didn't he pull something super heavy a few weeks ago too? Like this is just like it's funny that an 800-pound pull is pure exhibition for him. You could just lift that any day.
He smoked it too, and then he forgot his belt.
That's insane.
He usually wears a belt like that.
He meant to wear a belt, but he's so I mean that's just Jeremy. Sometimes he just forgets to even bring the belt.
Freak.
But he was warming up and he meant to wear his belt, but he just forgot it and lifted it up and was like, "Oh wait, I forgot my belt." Like, dude,
he
what
smashed that weight too.
Dude, he's so strong.
Yeah,
doesn't make sense.
It didn't seem like a struggle at all.
No,
that was so on point, and I think his opening attempt was fairly quick too. But the weight got out in front of him a little bit, and then but that second one he just absolutely smashed it. I was like, holy shit!
Yeah,
how do you do that with 840 pounds?
He did 842.
I think no, it was 826. I
Was it
think.
something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever it was, he said it was a beltless PR.
Yeah,
but he didn't know. He didn't have a belt on until he smashed it. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with the competition, and it was great. Running into so many fans, and then just learning how many people are here locally. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, shit, man, let's all get together. I kept running into people, and they're like, "Man, I've been meaning to check out your gym." I'm like, "The gym's free. You got an invite. Like, come." Come check the damn gym out.
I still don't understand because like I run into so many people who are like, yeah, super training. It'd be so cool to train there. I'm like, the gym's free, right? Wait, really? Really, it's free? He says it, but I don't believe it. Like a lot of people just straight up don't believe that the gym's free.
Yeah, one of the guys that I ran into, he's a listener of the podcast. He's a cool dude, and I don't know, maybe because I just didn't remember what he looked like on his Instagram or something. But I looked at him, I was like, dude, he's a big guy. Like, yeah, you're around the corner, you should come to the gym. And he was just like, yeah, I don't know, man, like it's one thing to train at a regular gym, and he's like, but if I go there, I know I'm going to be like the smallest, weakest guy. I'm like, no, dude, like there's no minimum requirement to lift here. That's what I tell everybody. And it's still, I mean, I understand, it can be intimidating because it is the super training gym.
Yeah,
but dude, this environment's incredible.
We just want you to work hard.
That's it. Yeah,
and yeah, it was just a lot of fun, though. I ran into a lot of great people, a lot of people with, like, inspirational stories, and that's what makes some of these things so hard is, like, these events, they take a lot out of us in terms of our staff, in terms of moving all the plates over there and getting everything prepared, and, there's a lot that goes into it. There's people at the scores table, there's pre-registration, people putting in their opening attempts, and the list of things go on and on and on when you're running a powerlifting contest. And so Smokey and Kara Weston and Jesse Burdick and all these people are just so responsible for so many different things. We need to bring the kilo plates. We got certain bars. We got certain benches. So it's a lot, right? And so sometimes I'm like, man, that really consumes a lot of resources from us. But then I get there and, I have someone telling me a story about how, the podcast changed their life, or they've been to super training before and they came in and had a great experience, and they tell me how wonderful the staff is. And, hey, this guy, he helped me squat. And it's amazing because, we're thinking, oh, okay, I helped a guy with like a lift, or I gave the guy a suggestion for nutrition. But it doesn't end there. It's like that you could really, truly be helping positively impact somebody's life just because you helped them squat, which sounds crazy, but if that's what you love to do and someone got you back in the game because they showed you how to squat, it no longer hurts your knee or no longer hurts your back, and you can make improvements on it, you're just so damn excited.
Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing to get that kind of feedback.
Yeah. Let me ask you, what would be your vision for because the first time that we had the SD Classic was last year, right? Okay.
Yep, that's right.
And this is year 2. What's your vision for the ST Classic as time goes by, as the years go by? Do you want multiple in a year? How do you want to, what do you see for it?
Yeah, I think, so I have a kind of multiple goals, multiple things that I'd like to try to do. And one of them is I would like to try to bring super training gym experience to everybody. And I'd like to try to almost bring ST on the road, which now that, takes up even more ammo, right? That takes up even more people. But the feeling that you get when you come in here on a Saturday, and the feeling that you probably have when you go into, you mentioning the different hours for jiu-jitsu. There's some hours where it's like, okay, this is the big boy class. This is the cream of the crop. And I'm sure other people are probably welcome, but it's like, man, if you can't hang, it's probably not a great idea for you to be in this class because it's going to get pretty intense.
Yeah.
I would love for everyone that we can possibly reach to feel what that feels like when you're in super training on a Saturday morning and everybody's squatting, got the music cranked up, and there's not one person in the room that doesn't want to see somebody else get better. There's not one person in the room that has any other desire than they want to get stronger. They're there to help other people get stronger. It's a really, really powerful feeling. And it's not something you would ever feel or recognize at a commercial gym because that's just not the same thing. Now, everyone at a commercial gym, they have the best intentions of getting better, but they don't all have the same intentions of getting stronger. And this is kind of streamlined towards one thing, and it's a really powerful thing to feel. So I'd love to be able to figure out ways of doing something like that. In terms of the actual ST Classic and in terms of this contest, I think it would make sense for us to bring contests like this in-house, do certain things at the gym, and we're going to have to figure those things out. It's going to take time to really figure them out. I like the idea of these people that watch us on Instagram and YouTube and stuff. They now have a chance to not only come see us, not only communicate with us and interact with super training, but they get the chance to share the platform. Mm-hmm. There's something really cool and special about that where it's like I can't really think of anywhere else where you'd get that experience. If you guys are rolling and I wanted to come in, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to show up to every class of the advanced class. If I showed up one time, it might be like, hey, my buddy's coming, he wants to check it out. Probably not a big deal, but I'm going to slow everybody down. I'm going to mess everything up otherwise, right? And so, you don't really get this opportunity like this because it's just you versus the weights. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take very long. Each person has a minute to do the lift, and then you're out of the way. And so you can have Brian Shaw lifting with somebody who's totally brand new to powerlifting.
Yeah, the camaraderie aspect of it, I think, is the really amazing thing because even when I first came to super training gym, I was used to training in a commercial gym by myself. I had a training partner here and there, but it wasn't really a team setting. And when I got here, it took a few weeks for me to adapt to and understand that everyone is.
Oh yeah, we made fun of you all the time. I remember.
I was coming here wearing leggings, or not leggings, but the compression pants,
yoga pants,
compression pants. They are compression.
Trying to show off that eggplant.
Okay, well, just a push-up bra for your butt.
Yeah, but my butt doesn't need no push-up. Right?
Nah,
I got that dunk. But the meet, it really was like everyone there. Everyone knew each other. Everyone knew what it was about, and there was no animosity or toxicity. Just like here at the gym, there's never anybody that here. There's competition. When someone's inching up to Marcus's squat like Dan and Marcus. There's competition,
Right.
but they're both trying to help each other get better. Everyone's literally doing everything they can to help the other lifter improve.
Yeah,
That's the beautiful part of it.
I was trying to explain that to my dad because my parents actually ended up coming out to the meet, which was really cool. But so he like, he's looking around. He's like, so then like what's your competition like? I'm like, no, like my competition is myself. Like I want everybody here to hit everything as heavy as they can. Like I don't want anybody to mess up or anything. Like I just want myself to do as good as I can as well as everybody else. So yeah, there's no competition. It's just me against me. I have a number in my head that I want to hit, but like I said, like it also doesn't matter. Like I just want to be able to perform and, be strong and, not get hurt obviously, but, just have a great fun time. So, and that's essentially what happened. And in the middle of it all, I was taking it pretty serious and I'm like, you know what, man, I should probably kind of just like chill out, just like enjoy it, remember it. Cause like a couple people were like, hey, it's your first meet, man. You only get one. And so I was like, you know what, maybe I'm taking it too serious. But then in the middle of it, I'm also like, but this is my shit. Like, I am never going to get this opportunity again.
Yeah.
And I don't know, most of us, we grew up like kind of imagining like, oh, we're going to get the last shot to win the game in overtime, game 7. So I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I am going to take it that serious. Like, I'm not going to like overdo it and, start like pushing people out of the way or being a jerk. But like, yeah, I'm going to like, this is it. Like, I've been prepping for a while now. Like I'm going to do everything I can and I'm going to take it serious.
And it
was fun.
A lot of what we have in society is kind of set up to watch you fall flat on your face. And people want you to be careful. And they're going to say, jiu-jitsu's dangerous, powerlifting's dangerous. Oh man, fasting, like I don't know about that, man. Like are you sure, you okay with that? Like you're not eating any carbs. Like human body needs carbohydrates, And you have people that are going to kind of say all these things, and again, that's what's great about being at these kind of events is that it's a brotherhood. We do want to see each other doing well, and if there's any sort of like criticism towards anything, it's it's usually kidding around, or B, it's just somebody like legitimately concerned. Like I had to stop Charity Witt from doing her deadlift because she hit a deadlift, and then she wanted to go to 500 pounds, but like she popped something in her hip, and she just said her body went numb and she didn't know what was going on. And then I was like, well, how do you feel right now? And she's like, I'm in some pain, but I feel okay. And I was like, well, that's a great place to end. Let's stop, let's not do another lift. And she was just kind of thinking about it. And I said, listen, you can decide to do whatever you want, but I'm going to go take the lift off the board. I'm going to take your next lift off the board. You're done. And I was like, are you okay with that? And she's like, she just shook her head. Like I knew that's all she could do. She couldn't say yes, take me out of the meet, but she could do enough to just shake her head. And I said, okay, you're out. But that was just to try to protect somebody because I don't want her, traveling back to Atlanta, on her flight with a torn hamstring or something. It's like miserable, right? It's going to take 3 or 4 months to try to recover from something like that. So it's just easier to say we're there to kind of watch after each other. We're there to try to help each other pick attempts. We're there to try to help each other get better. But in our effort to get better, there's kind of that fine line of like, I don't want to see you end up a lot worse than you were when you came in today.
Most definitely. Andrew, how'd you feel when you were in the back, like right before you took your first attempt? And you, like, I think Mark, you were doing all his warm-ups too and everything, right?
Yeah. Having Mark there, of course, was huge. Obviously, like I'm a pretty like jittery guy. I'm a nervous guy, anxious guy. So somebody would come up to talk to me, or during like the lifters like pre-meeting or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It was so hard. That was one of the hardest things because we all had to sit there and listen to Megamind talk for, whatever. It wasn't even that long, but it felt like it was like 4 hours because I'm like, I can't stay still. I need to move around. So it was really tough up until Mark was like, yeah, go ahead and start moving around and start warming up. Like just do like bands, do light stuff. Just I needed to move.
Yeah.
Not being able to move was tough. Marcus was like, hey, man, just like calm down. You're going to exert too much energy by walking back and forth. Like, I'm trying, man, but it takes a lot of energy to not move. That was really tough.
That's
Yeah.
hard because you get different advice. Because my advice was, hey, move around a bunch so you get rid of your anxiety. Because I think that when we train, Andrew and I, we don't like sit down it'd be really, really rare for us to. We don't sit down and even like drink water. Some people will do that in a training session. They have a hard leg day. It makes some sense. Sometimes in between sets you rest, but we don't ever do anything like that. We're usually going pretty good. And I'm very aware of how he trains and how we train together and everything. So I was just like, yeah, man, just, move around a lot, try to get a lot of blood into your shoulders and biceps and stuff. And look, if you're going to wear yourself out with a warm up with bands, then you're probably not in very good shape anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he just had him just kind of keep moving. And that way keeps your mind off of, what's actually about to happen. And with Andrew, the hard part was just picking the correct warm-ups, picking the right warm-ups to tune his body up, because this is not a, if you're going to go and run 10 miles, the intensity of running 10 miles is pretty low. The duration is long, but the intensity is low. Most likely, unless you're like a really good runner, you probably run fairly slow. And so what's the warm-up required to run 10 miles? Or what's the warm-up required to walk 5 miles? There's really not a lot of, maybe to run 10 miles, maybe you would like stretch, move around a little bit, and maybe you would walk, for 5 minutes at a pretty good pace, get your body temperature up, heart rate up, and you'd be off to the races and you start running. But powerlifting is a lot different. We're trying to tap into our nervous system. We're trying to get our nervous system on board with what we're about to do. We're trying to have our body ready to recruit as many muscle fibers as possible to be able to lift the most amount of weight. And for lack of a better term, you can kind of like short circuit that system and not take advantage of how strong you can really be if you don't warm up properly. And so selecting the right weights for Andrew in the warm-up room was critical. And I had a lot of help too from Jesse Burdick in selecting his attempts for the actual contest too, because I knew that he could jump pretty good from attempt number 1 to attempt number 2. But I also knew that from attempt number 2 to attempt number 3, it was critical that was a small gap. And I knew that his third attempts would feel easier than his second attempts. But I knew the second attempts, if he didn't make a second attempt, I knew we were going to be in trouble, because a second attempt was not near the max I was trying to get him to. But I also understood that the second attempt could be rough and he could miss it on a technicality, because the jump is greater from the first one to the second one rather than from the second one to the third one. So it ended up working out well. He ended up hitting all 6 of his lifts.
Yee.
And your third deadlift was the best deadlift I've ever seen you do.
Yeah, that is a gym, or everything was a platform PR, but that was a lifetime PR too of 303, because I had only hit 300 prior to that.
Yeah.
So when I didn't know, obviously I don't understand how to convert kilos to pounds, so I don't know if they had announced the pounds or not, but I heard the kilos and I thought that the pounds was going to come up like after that. So I don't know if people thought I was crazy, but I heard that, and so I just covered my ears and I'm like blah 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 blah, and so I so I don't know if people behind me were like, wow, that's a weird way to get fired up for a lift. But so when I walked up to it, and I had planned on hearing Mark say it's going to take a second. So that was my cue to know, like, okay, this is actually going to be like a pretty strong like attempt now, because Mark doesn't say that unless it's going to take a second to get off the ground.
Yeah.
So I ripped into it, and it, it stood up, put it down. I looked over because I'm like, please be 300. And it was, I was so fired up, because that was, I didn't have necessarily like a lift or a amount of weight I wanted to hit, but I knew I wanted a total 500 for the push pull.
Yeah.
And so when I hit 300, then that, made it just over 500. And so I was really excited for that. Like that meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
So I right away, I thanked Mark. I'm like, dude, thank you for calling 300, because that was huge. Like that, like I said, it means a lot.
Yeah, the only way I wasn't going to call for 300 is if his second attempt was like really crazy slow. That was the only way, but I knew that's what we wanted to get to, and I knew that we wanted to get to 200. So it's a good idea to try to work your way backwards. But in working your way backwards from your attempts, it's really critical that you're very honest and maybe even a little modest with the weights that you select, especially in your first powerlifting meet. You got to be really kind of cautious, You want to make sure that you make the lifts, because if you make lift number 1, lift number 2, it's just going to be that much easier to make lift number 3. It'll be very difficult if you missed your second attempt. It'll be hard to come back, and also you can't really add weight. It doesn't make sense a lot of times to add weight to an attempt, so you end up kind of being stuck with the same weight. But yeah, you can see that one came off the ground pretty quick.
Wow!
And then he exploded into it really well.
Yeah, that was huge,
dude. Dude, you could get 315 like on a like, because you were peaked here, but with the way that moved, you could grind a 315. Like, that was nice.
Yeah, that would be that's the goal for sure, is 3 plates, you know.
Yeah.
But the way that Mark set up all of the numbers was perfect. And what I wanted to ask was, would there have been any reason for you to, like, I don't know if you had 2 and 3 already kind of in your head before going in, like if you had that written down somewhere or something, but would there have been any case where you seen me smoke my second lift to be like, okay, maybe we will go up? Obviously, if I struggled, you wouldn't have gone straight to 200. You would have dropped it back down or something. But would there have been any case where you would have just deviated from the plan and put up more?
No, not really. No,
Okay.
I wanted you to really make the lifts. You know?
Yeah.
I wanted to be overwhelming, that you would have a really, really good opportunity to make the lift. Didn't want there to really be any question. The way that I was taught in powerlifting is that your lifts on the platform, and this is the way I competed through most of my career. Now things are different because I get like a specific goal. But the way that I was coached in powerlifting was that the only attempts that should be hard should be your third attempts. So you shouldn't have 9 hard attempts in a powerlifting meet. I remember when I was newer, I'd get done with a meet and I would be like, oh my God, I feel like I got run over by a truck, you know, and I felt terrible sometimes for a whole week after a meet. But once I got in better condition and once I understood how the meet should actually go a little bit better, and I had this idea of, okay, third attempts should be the only ones that are even remotely hard. And maybe sometimes they're not hard. Maybe you lock in so well and maybe you're so fired up that they're not hard because of the adrenaline dump that you get at a powerlifting meet. And so once I kind of learned that, that really helped me a lot. It's like, okay, third attempt is the one that's going to be a tough one. If there's going to be a grind, if there's going to be messed up form, then that's going to happen on a third attempt.
Yeah. Those first and second attempts, I never see really a situation where you should actually miss your second attempt, you know, unless, like, again, I think we talked about this on the other podcast, unless something freakish happened or weight cut, you're feeling sick. But do you think it's a general rule of thumb? What I've seen, and I hear that like Russians do this all the time, they always leave a little bit on the platform. Yeah. It's like whenever I see athletes that are disappointed that like they do a third attempt and successful, they're like, I had 8 more pounds, but it was a PR and you had 8 more pounds. Like, that's good. You know, you're going to hit the platform later on and you're going to hit another PR. Leave a little bit there. Yeah.
The Russian athletes are interesting. And there's some other athletes that do it too, but you see it a lot from the Russian athletes where Kirill Serkev is a great example. Kirill Serkev's best bench press, I think he did a 733 or 727 bench press, biggest bench press of all time. He's competed recently, probably twice since he's broken the world record, and he hasn't benched anything over 700. He hasn't even tried. I think he's done a 666 and like a 670, and he's kind of just left it there, and he does it really smooth, and you're watching it, and you're like, just don't understand. Well, he won't go outside. He won't go outside of his strength level. You know, he's going to lift what he should lift. So in my case, if I was a lifter that had that kind of discipline, I would have opened up with, 455, and I would have went to like 485, and I would have went to probably just under 500 pounds, and probably would have went 3 for 3 if you can have that kind of discipline. But sometimes it's really hard when you're trying to set, here in America, we go by pounds, so sometimes we're looking for those pounds. In other countries, they're looking a little bit more for the kilos. So like an 400 kilo deadlift is a big thing in other countries, where they're trying to do an 881 pound deadlift. Here in the U.S., a lifter might be thinking more like about 900 or 850. We're thinking about those rounded off kind of numbers. And so just a different mentality. And in the end, it makes sense to lift more like a Russian and to kind of have a little bit left in the tank on the platform so that you have other places to elevate to.
Yeah.
For me, the turnaround time on this meet was super fast in terms of, trying to get stronger and trying to get strong enough to be able to do that weight. I knew it was going to be like that. I knew it was going to be, a little bit hit or miss. I knew it was going to be a little bit of a roll of the dice. I felt really strong going into the contest, but I think where there may have been a little bit of an error on my part was, number one, I just didn't allow for enough time. I made kind of a 6 or 8 week prep for this, which was crazy turnaround time. And when I started, I was probably benching like 405. So
Jesus.
So the turnaround time was wacky. I mean, you can even just go back and look at a couple Instagram clips, and you can see like where I lift like 405, and you're like, this guy wants to try to bench 500.
Yeah.
And I almost made it happen, but so didn't have enough time was probably one of the main things, and I'll fix that because I'll compete again coming up soon. And the other thing is not only did I do a weight cut, but I also lost weight. So I was losing weight and I did a water cut, and those two things in combination aren't great. And so when I put my weight back on, I put a tremendous amount of weight back on with a 24-hour weigh-in. However, the weight that you put on isn't the same as the weight that you have when you're training in the gym. So I might have been like 240, 242 in training, and I may have weighed the exact same on the platform. But the difference is the hydration and stuff is in like your stomach, and it's not in your muscles. Mm-hmm. So, it would have been interesting to measure like biceps and stuff. But I mean, I just kind of have a theory that biceps and chest and stuff like that would have been a little bit smaller, and where most of the weight would have been put back on is probably through like my stomach.
Yeah.
Where you're holding on to more bloat, and maybe even like in my face, which is not gonna really help you lift any more weight. So those are some of the things that kind of happened leading up to the meet. But I still made a pretty good run at that 500. And April 7th, there's a meet in Reno, and I'm gonna get my revenge on that 500-pound bench.
Nice.
How many weeks out is that now? April 7th.
I think it's like a 6 or 7 weeks. The hard part is I'm traveling all over the place. I'm going to Columbus, Ohio, and to and Italy, and a bunch of spots. But if I can get in one good training session a week on the bench, then should be totally fine. The frustrating part when you go and do something like that, like you did your competition at Worlds, and you felt you should have done a little bit better. Mm-hmm. There's nothing worse than feeling like an able-bodied person and feeling strong mentally and physically, and then coming up short. You're like, it's like it doesn't it like irks you, like it makes you like mad, but gets you fired up enough to like get back in there and start right away. And so as soon as when I woke up Sunday morning, which is just the day after the meet, went right back to writing 501 at 220 on my mirror. Like I've done that for years. I've always written goals on my mirror. Mm-hmm. Do it every morning, and now I see that, and I know exactly what it takes to do that, and I feel like I can have even more strength than just the 500-pound bench. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes.
How did you feel that? Because when I lost Worlds, I was very angry that day. Like I was very angry, very quiet. When I look back at it, I know I could have handled that better because I had my girlfriend with me. Mm-hmm. But how did you feel? Because I saw you that day. I mean, I couldn't see like a lot of, I guess, anger coming off of you or mm-hmm. whatever. But how did you feel? How did you process that after it happened?
I like the idea of like never let them see you sweat.
Yeah.
Like if I got pain, I don't want everybody else to really know about it necessarily. Mm-hmm. And so, it's hard because it sounds like a loser mentality a little bit when you say like you can lose, but you really won. Like I really felt I was really happy with how I did.
Yeah.
I was really fulfilled with how I did. Now I missed a lift, but I poured everything I could. I went over everything I could possibly do to make the lift. The only thing I could have possibly done is made the decision to do the meet a little bit earlier. But I didn't have any control over that. Once I decided, and the 500 was like. At first I was thinking, it'd be cool if I went in and benched like 455. That'd be kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll wear a slingshot. Maybe I'll try to lift, more than I did last year. So I still had all these things in my head. And when I was telling the guys here that I wanted to bench 500, they all assumed I was talking about in a slingshot. And they didn't even realize until like last week that I was, going to do it this way. But yeah, I like the idea of, if I win or if I lose, I don't really want you to be able to tell the difference that much.
Yeah.
And that's not like a front that I'm trying to portray. I'm not like going out of my way to get into this mode of like, okay, I'm going to kind of cover this up that I'm really like hurt or pissed about missing the lift. It's just a genuine feeling that I have because I crossed all my T's, I dotted all my I's, I went over everything. I trained as hard as I could. I even set up my training to where there was no adherence to like I'm going to bench every 6 days or 7 days. It was like I'm going to bench when I feel like it. I'm going to cut out some of my squats. I'm going to cut out some of my deadlifts. And so sometimes I would bench on like a Monday, and then I might bench again on like a Wednesday, and I might bench again on like a Saturday.
Yeah.
But it was all by feel. I wasn't purposely trying to overtrain or anything like that. I was just going by, if it felt right, I would go for it. I implemented a lot of stuff. The only thing that I wish that I would have done is, but I really couldn't have changed it. Well, I guess I could have changed it. In the closing weeks leading up to the meet, I started to switch back a little bit more to the way that I normally bench, where I drop the weights down really fast, and then I let them come down. I get tight, and then I throw the weight up. I think that if I can, in this training cycle, if I can slow down a little bit, if I can slow down that eccentric a little bit more, I can stay more connected to the bar. Almost like somebody who yanks on a deadlift and gets it forward out of position. If I could stay a little bit more connected to the bar the entire time, then I think that I'll have absolutely no problem smashing through that weight. Another factor too is just being smaller. You end up with a pretty long range of motion. And recently I changed my grip up, so I stopped tearing my pec and I brought my grip in a little bit. And so that range of motion is a little something new to deal with. So I'll have to work on that in training too. But I think some incline benching, some close grip benching, I'm not going to really change too much else up other than maybe doing some like heavy holds, just hold some weight statically.
Yeah, Jen Thompson does a lot of that, right?
Yeah, she does it with like 500 pounds. She's so strong. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think some of those things would really help a lot.
It's pretty crazy. I think the biggest thing I just got from that is that you did everything you needed to do. I think that like when an athlete knows that they look back and they're like, I skipped these training sessions, I didn't do this, they don't get the result they want. That makes, at least I know in situations where that's happened to me in competition, that makes me the worst. So that makes me even more mad. Like when I know I could have actually done more, but in this situation, you literally did everything you needed to do. So you look back at it, there's a few things you can do in the next one, but that makes a big difference in, if you actually don't get the result you want, but you did everything, you can handle that a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, I was really looking at it too, like on a weekly basis. I was like, okay, like, what am I doing with my kids? And what am I doing with my wife? And what am I doing with the podcast? And what am I doing here? And what am I like, where do I fit in my lift? And, I was really prioritizing it. So again, yeah, I felt like I did everything I could do. And also like, you got to kind of think about, why you're doing these things. You're doing these things for self-improvement. You're doing these things to feel better and not feel worse. And so, putting some pressure on yourself and, yeah, all those things can be positive, but like we don't want to put so much pressure on ourselves that we just make it too much of a mountain to climb, So I like to just try to have good perspective on it and just, pour as much into it as I can. Nutrition wise, I thought everything was good. The weight cut was not hard. I spent like 10 minutes in the hot tub. I didn't have to do much. When it came to that, took some dandelion root, which is just a natural over-the-counter diuretic.
Yeah.
And drank, did a water manipulation, drank 2 gallons of water for about 3 days, and the weight came off. But again, I think the mistake is that I was losing weight and getting lean before that, and I need to stabilize my weight for this training cycle. So that'll be the hardest part, is just to try to keep the weight at a certain weight the entire time through the whole training cycle, and then just lose 8 or 10 pounds of water. That will still impact my strength negatively, so I'll have to account for that. And in my training, I might have to lift 2% more and understand that I may not get that same weight on the platform. So I'll have to just, if I want to bench 500, I'll have to probably in training be able to bench 505 or 510 or something like that. So now I know that going in, and now I can make the right adjustment.
So what's going through your mind when you're kind of, you're hitting the chalk bowl, you're walking back and forth, all that good stuff?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, thinking about being fast and thinking about being explosive. Right there with that 485, I was actually thinking, because the weight moved slow, I kind of grinded through it, and it was an opening attempt. I was thinking, back in the day when I was in a bench shirt, that would take a lot out of me. So I'd knock the second lift off the board, and I would put in a third attempt, and I would just wait, regain my strength, and regain my energy. And it was something that definitely played through my head there for a minute. But I just left it in there because I was like, well, having 2 stabs at it, might be better than just one. But really, when I'm getting fired up and I'm getting excited, I just think about just trying to put in everything I got into it, just trying to do my best and trying not to let the moment pass me by. And I try to utilize the energy from the crowd. Something I've always done is I kind of, so part of the reason for the chalk bowl patty cake situation is like I want all eyes on me. Like I want the attention. I want that 30 seconds to myself, as I think every lifter deserves that. I hate these meets where they run multiple platforms sometimes. I'm like, this is crap, man. Give these people their 30 seconds of fame here, and so I kind of like it. It's not really like an ego thing. It's not like I want to say, hey, like, check out what I'm doing, although I don't mind that side of it either. Mm-hmm. It's more like I just want the energy. I want the energy from everybody. I want, just as every lifter wants that, right? Every lifter wants, hey, like, I worked really hard for this. Here's my opportunity. This is why we have a platform. And this is why we're not facing a wall. This is why we're facing like an audience. We're doing it in front of a crowd. And I like to utilize the energy from the crowd. And I even kind of visualize, like when I'm breathing and stuff, I'm visualizing like sucking all the power out of the room, sucking all the energy out of the room, and trying to harness that for myself almost.
I think there's also an idea of like an increased pressure there, because when all eyes are on you, like who wants to fail when everyone's looking at them?
Yeah.
But if like you go up quietly and you just do it, if you fail, you can just wander off in obscurity. So it's
right there.
Right.
It's right there.
Shoot.
I don't think I didn't even know that I got that close. I just really had no idea.
Yeah, and the second one was as close or even closer.
Yeah.
I'll fast forward and get through it, but what were you more excited for, or maybe what were you more jittery about? Your lifts or mine?
I was I would say that I put a lot more thought into your lifts because we had to really be accurate with the weights that you were hitting. I always get a little nervous, doing these powerlifting meets, and it's very normal. And we talked about that on the podcast before. I use that nervousness as excitement, like, oh, this is just excitement, and I'm going to use it as positive energy. For you, I remember, in the warm-up room, I had to have you take weights in the warm-up room that were almost identical to the weights you did on the platform.
Yeah.
Like your opening attempt for your deadlift, you probably don't even know, but it was 253.
Yeah, I had no idea.
I mean, that's pretty light, but
wow.
We've had training sessions where you just had a rough time and couldn't get 270 off the ground or 280, So I was like, well, I need him. The first lift has to come off the ground clean and smooth. And so when it came to deadlifting, I had you deadlift 135 multiple times, 185 a couple times, 225. And then we ended with 245, and your opening attempt was 253. That's pretty unconventional. We don't really usually do stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then same thing with the bench press. I actually had you bench more in the warm-up room than you did on the platform. You benched 185 in a slingshot, I think maybe twice in the warm-up room.
Yeah.
And then you went out on the platform, and your opening attempt was that 175. And the 175 was so easy. I think that probably was a big relief for you. I could kind of see it in your face and on in your shoulders and stuff, just like, oh man, it's the weight of the world just came off his back. He's good to go now. He's in the meet, and that's exactly what we wanted to set up. I even had an idea of like maybe we're going to have you, go to the back and do another warm up, but it was just unnecessary at that point. You were tuned in, and the flight was going fast enough where we didn't have to sneak in another warm up between attempts.
Cool. Yeah, it was. I mean, I got a great coach. It worked out really well.
This guy benched like 600 pounds, didn't he? In a slingshot?
Yeah. I don't know his name.
I think it's Micah Marino.
Yeah, Micah Marino. He coaches a lot of people.
Yeah, I haven't heard from him in a long time. He was a really popular lifter a couple years back. I think I want to say, maybe he's only like 200 pounds or something, or 190 something pounds. It's a huge bench. I mean, he did it in a slingshot, obviously, but shit, that's. I mean, he could. I wonder, maybe he benches 5 without it.
Well, that weight class is 242, right?
This was just kind of like I don't know what you would call it. But
He's pretty thick. Yeah, he probably is about 230 or something.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a little heavier than I was thinking. But there's our boy JP Price.
JP surprised me. I didn't realize that for half of the year he doesn't bench press. That kind of caught me off guard. It's a bit, but I guess it makes sense since his bench is just so heavy and it's so stressful. It's just wow. You spend all that time.
Yeah, what an awesome guy too.
yeah, he's the best.
Yeah, he's. I mean, I remember when we had him on the podcast. He said, like, one of his goals is to be. He says to be like a thermostat, and he likes to, if the room is hot and everybody in there is angry, he likes to cool it down.
Yeah.
And if the room is cold and no one's laughing and no one's smiling, he likes to warm it up. He likes to warm everybody up. And I was like, well, buddy, I was like, you certainly achieved that. I said, every time I see you, I end up with a big ass smile on my face before we even say 2 words to each other, because I'm always so excited to see you. I was like, you're doing it, man. But yeah, what a powerful son of a bitch, man. He came here and squatted about 8 plates, I think, on the safety squat bar for a set of 5. And I mean, he's a big guy, but he could move. I mean, his form was like, it was wild. But
This is 677.
No way.
Wham.
Wow.
Makes sense.
It's crazy that he used to be a wrestler too back in the day.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. He's a grappler, right?
Yeah.
He could. It wouldn't be wise to mess with him at all.
No, I wouldn't. Plus, who would want to? Like his personality, like you mentioned, it's like every time you see JP, you always feel good. He always makes that's a crazy thing about him, and people like that. When you can meet somebody that can always make you smile when you see them, that's a special gift. And I don't know if he does it intentionally or it's just him, but it's a really powerful.
No,
thing.
it's a great trait to have. With my daughter, she always makes me laugh, and I always tell her all the time, like, I was like, that's a really good trait. I hope you always keep that. You always have a way of making me laugh. You say something silly, you say something crazy, and I was like, I hope you're always able to keep that. I think it's important to let people know, like, that's a talent. A lot of people don't have that. A lot of people don't have that ability to make people laugh, make people smile like that. Anyway, the Super Training Classic was a success. Thank you to all the men and women that came out to it. Really appreciate all the support. Appreciate all the men and women of Super Training Gym and Slingshot that helped out with the contest. It was great having Nsima there, showing off his magnificent body, magnificent face, his magnificent skin tone, that ass. I mean, list goes on and on.
Yeah. A huge thanks to the spotters and loaders. You guys know, a lot of people know how much work they actually put into it. I've seen it, but I didn't see like the behind the scenes. I didn't see like what it takes to actually, like, they're loading and unloading weights the entire day.
Well, and there's people in the warm-up room doing that too, which is big.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I never really paid attention much to that.
Most meets don't have that.
Man.
Yeah, so that was set up by Jesse and by Smokey, which is great, because then, like, as a lifter, you don't have anything to think about. You're like, hey, put 185 on the bar.
Yeah, it was amazing. So thank you to everybody that was a part of that. That was huge.
Lastly, I just want to kind of add this thing in. Something I was thinking about is how, this event that we run at Cal Expo every year is a lot of fun. It's not, the expo is not huge, but what we have going on at Super Training at Slingshot was really well represented, and there was a lot of positive feedback, a lot of great people there. And something I was thinking about kind of on my way home as I was licking my wounds from missing my 500-pound bench was, how you can't outsource these things, and that's what I love so much about. I love the fact that you can prep and you can do everything in your power for a bodybuilding show and not end up with the results that you want. Like, most people would think, man, I hate that. I hate that I can't get what I want. But that's a part of life. There are no guarantees. You can pour your heart and soul into a significant other. You can pour your heart and soul into a business. And it's just not always going to work out. There's so many factors that go into it that are sometimes I was watching Jeremy Avila do a deadlift, and it's just ridiculous how fast he is. But it's that can be overwhelming at times for people. That can be something that makes people upset. But it should just make you more hungry. It should make you more hungry to get to the end goal and to stack up your thoughts and the things and your actions together and have them align with the dreams and have them align with the things that you want to do. Remember, I always talk on this podcast about cowards are people that talk about what they'll never do. And you want to not only do things, but if you fail, you want to continue to pick up the pieces and try to figure out, how do I make sense of this in my life, and how do I end up getting what I want? And the fastest way to get what you want, we've gone over this numerous times, is to just ask. You just have to keep asking questions, and you just have to keep poking around. And so as I go for this 500-pound bench at 220, as soon as I got home, I started texting like 4 or 5 of my friends that bench 600 pounds, that bench 700 pounds, Matt Winning, Jesse Burdick, James Strickland. Like, I just started texting some of these people, like, not in a panic, not saying like, oh man, I need to change everything and I need to have 7 different training methods to hit this bench. But let me take a moment to realize and recognize that maybe my ideas of doing this, maybe they're not the best, and maybe I should be open to some other suggestions and some other things. So, even though I can walk around that expo and I could, I've done really well financially, the business is very successful. I could go around to that expo, or I can go to the mall, or I can go to a car dealership and I can buy just about anything that they have. I could maybe even at this trade show have gone up to a different business and have purchased someone else's business, right? But you can't buy a 500-pound bench press, and you can't buy the body that you want. It's something that you have to work for. And I love the fact that these things cannot be outsourced, and they have to be worked for, and there's no other way to get to them. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Catch you guys later.